A long time ago, deep in the forest of the high plateaus of South Vietnam, lived the Mnongs, a proud and free people whose ability to capture wild elephants has become legendary throughout all of Southeast Asia. To these men, capturing an elephant was so prestigious an act that some of them devoted their entire lives to it. They were called the Ivory Knights. For more than half a century, war cut this land off from the rest of the world. Thus, the quest for elephants and those who hunted them were forgotten. Today, there is peace at last, but the region is still closed to foreigners. The local inhabitants have witnessed tremendous change in their lives. Macoun is one of the rare survivors of ancient traditions. He is the last of those who have devoted their lives to the elephants. He is the last Ivory Knight. Here, on the Yak Dan, the sacred mountain, he continues to pass on the gestures and the knowledge needed to capture wild elephants. He is explaining to this young hunter how to chase young wild elephants and try to get their leather lassos around one of the hind legs. The origin of this incredible and dangerous method of capture goes back to ancient times, forming a unique link between the people and the elephants. Their fervent belief is that in the beginning, elephants were men. Until one day, a woman found some fish at the edge of a pond and gave them to her son, who was crying because he was hungry. The boy was transformed into an elephant calf. The mother hid her child and gave the rest of the fish to the Mnong fishermen around the pond. They too were instantly changed into elephants. They returned to their village, where they were given lots of rice to eat and sent away to learn to live in the forest. They left, but to repay the village, they promised that man could always call on them if they were needed. The calf told them that to do so, they must take a buffalo and some jars and prepare a great sacrifice, and then, with the buffalo hide, make a rope for catching the elephants. Ever since that time, the elephant has been sacred. His capture is a mystical quest with many secrets that Macoun has passed on to his sons. Isan, the youngest, is riding Bakam, the last elephant captured by his father. He's a young hunter, but very skilled. He has already taken 4 elephants. Along with his brothers Mave and Macoun, Isan is on the trail of a small herd of wild elephants. Finding wild elephants is harder than it used to be, since deforestation and poaching have decimated the once very numerous herds in the region. The elephants have become more cautious. At the slightest suspicious sound, they quickly run away, whereas in the past, they would stay and fight. It's no longer easy for hunters to get close to young elephants, making their capture that much more difficult. They have to ride fairly heavy elephants to resist the charge of females trying to protect their young. Today, hunters use fast elephants like Macoun. However, they're not as powerful, which makes capture more dangerous, since a violent attack by an angry female is always possible. Isan has found a young elephant separated from his herd. The surprised youngster smelled Macoun's presence and, with his ears facing forward, observes the intruder. But as soon as Isan tries to get closer, the calf scurries away. In spite of Macoun's speed, the wild elephant manages to escape his pursuer. A little later, the hunters get together again. Macoun, who was able to cut the wild herd off, describes his adventure.
Cái này để 11 tầng cả. Hả? Em nhập dạ đấy hắn mùi tăng cả. Cô gấp cầu hai. Tao nói ta tao mau vào.
Macoun and his son's village is on the bank of Lake Eawe, near the Cambodian border in the province of Dak Lak. It's a matriarchal society. The women pass down the family name and the ethnic grouping. On their return, the three sons go to their fathers to try to understand the reason for their failure.
Thua hai bé này, thua hai cam sao hai bình năng nhớ lùm mà nhớ bình cắt đồ bẹt tự này đó đó lùa lên bình năng kẹo như lấy kẹo nhiều nữa
em bắt ướt kiểu em bắt nhưng mà không tiêu được kiểu da nhiều quá không bắt ướt
ăn răng dòng co bây giờ man đấy lại màn mới
cạm với co nên bực lại cái sang rồi sang bông vui bông nụ gậy vàng ba
hoa thì chạm hoa biết ta đi ta thọ cái bà rọc đó là nào cái chữ này cũng nó thật sự có tôi bại nhiều drầm ta
The Mnongs do not capture such small elephants. The calves are still too dependent on their mothers. But this one was found alone in the forest. Poachers must have killed his mother. He could never have survived on his own, and the spirits require the hunters to take him in and raise him. The Mnongs never have such young elephants in the village because custom forbids them to have an elephant born in captivity. Elephants must be born free, like humans. One must never forget that, in the beginning, elephants were men. And so all the elephants in the village come from wild herds. They are first captured and then tamed. Although the women in the village have adopted the youngster and prepare the same food for him as for their own children, the old master knows that the calf has little chance of surviving. The rice broth they feed him every 4 hours cannot replace mother's milk. Recent political events have forced the Mnongs to settle in one place, and against their will, they have become farmers. They can no longer move their village freely from one place to another and practice their tradition of burning the earth to prepare it for a new culture. And so when the rice harvest is over, they are happy to devote themselves to the elephants. At 78, Macoun is too old to hunt, but he is still a great tamer, the last to know the secrets which link man and the elephants. This wild elephant was captured by Isan 3 months ago. He has been tied up ever since on the other side of the lake. Macoun comes every day to feed him so that the elephant understands that he is a friend. Getting the elephant accustomed to human presence and accepting food are the most important aspects of taming, since the animal will die of hunger if he refuses nourishment. The captured elephant's behavior indicates that the taming has a good chance of succeeding. It's time to leave in search of another. Capture and taming form a cycle, which must never be interrupted. Isan and his brothers decide to go after a herd of wild elephants whose tracks they've spotted near the border. Before leaving, the hunters meet with their father to help prepare the sacrifices to the spirits of the forest. Macoun advises his sons and checks their lassos very carefully. Lassos are 60 meters long. They are very precious, since each one is made from the hides of 3 previously sacrificed buffaloes. The old master chants the words which give power to the lasso. This long piece of braided leather thus becomes a magical object, the sacred link between the Mnongs and their elephant ancestors. The hunting elephants also participate in the ceremonies, so that the spirits will favor and protect those who are leaving. Rice, jars of alcohol, and a pig are offered as sacrifices.
Đây AK hen này ơi. Anh ghé anh răng nào đây là chỉ có chỉ chừng cái tay rồi. Rất biết. Sóc rút sóc ra nút rau nút đó ở đây rong đây ri đây cho tay lên tay. Asam rak-rak beramam kang nampak gol ni ki jajan kai pram jan nam dat tapum ro bung pan mat jan jan ma babai kong yul ya kapang kong bung nei tim nung tung chi di rak dam rak ren kuku menang. Asal andang nei thok ta up da rak na ta prang te chin de bule ma han pra le prat le tap de me le me ke na le ri le ale chu chu bab ha le chi pu wak sak map na map pat na ngal le map khwak ma do. Chắc rồi đấy. Cầm nhà pu đấy. Nó từng quanh những đánh từng quen đâm ra giang mai đây mà sam nuôi sam neng ta opera kemai ta bra ho bra ơn của ta lâm giang bra hai tao đi đục cho tao bao mê ai pop lâm ra lâm giang lấy lê rong lâm ra lâm giang ai quang am la cơ tâm chung mua giang đang nạc la tăng bụng này lâm ra lâm giang go nhom go con mày nhớ mà ba năm gượng cụ thân các bạn ôm với họ các bạn phải làm gì nào.
The next morning, the hunters harness their mounts. Above the lassos, they pile up all the items necessary for life in the forest. Each hunter has a helper, whose main task is to excite the elephant during the hunt. He also must prepare the meals and look after the animals. There are very strict rules as to what the hunters may wear. Mave has the right to wear a shirt, since he has captured more than 5 elephants. Isan and Macoun have not yet reached this number and can only wear a cloth and a light cape. Isan, Mave, and Macoun will be away for many weeks. They will go far, very far, beyond Sripok to the Cambodian border. The old master's spirit will go with them. On the other side of the river, there are no villages, no men. It's the territory of the elephants. Each year during the dry season, they return because of the abundance of food. It's one of the few places left where the hunters can hope to find herds of more than 20 individuals. After long hours on the backs of their elephants, the hunters stop for the night. In the forest, they rediscover their lost freedom and their nomadic instincts. They are happy to escape the everyday life of the village. For a few weeks, they forget their fields and become hunters again. The forest becomes their home once more. The Mnongs are truly a forest people. Along with a few other very close ethnic minorities like the Jérôme and the Rades, they are the first inhabitants of the high plateaus of Vietnam. Their origins and culture are very different from those of the Vietnamese who come from the north and only began to settle in the high plateaus in 1954. In the meantime, Macoun continues to tame his elephant. Today, after 3 months of daily visits, the animal finally accepts the presence of man. Macoun decides to untie him. This is a very important moment. If he reacts well and remains gentle, the most difficult part of the training can begin. The elephant defends himself a little, but then calms down. Macoun speaks to him continuously, repeating the same simple commands over and over again. The old man takes him to the lake. It's less dangerous there, since the animal can sometimes cause his rider to fall. Even the most peaceful elephant can have sudden fits of violent anger. The elephant remains relatively docile. From this day on, he will progressively enter the community of man. This first step includes a sacrifice to the spirits. Macoun recites the prayers, during which the elephant receives his name, Komsen. Still, he will not be considered a full-fledged member of the family until the taming is completed. The rice thrown into the flames is a way of judging the chances of success with the elephant. When time permits during the rice culture, and while the younger men are hunting for elephants, the Mnongs spend a great deal of time fishing. It's their only real pastime. Each time they cast their nets, they remember that it all began here, when the elephant and man were one people, fishing in the lakes. After a week in the forest, the hunters are near the Cambodian border. Once past the Ho Chi Minh Trail, they are finally in the heart of elephant country. Isan heard some wild elephant sounds during the night. At dawn, they leave in search of them. The tracks are fresh. The herd is less than 1 hour away. The hunters go through a labyrinth of sharp, intertwined bamboo. Wild elephants take refuge here during the day to hide and to protect themselves from the sun. It is here that the hunters must seek them out. The hunt is long and difficult. The men spend entire days on the backs of their mounts, searching for wild herds over an immense territory. The hunters turn around in circles. In their search for food, the elephants disperse and go back on their tracks all the time. In spite of this additional difficulty, Isan, an exceptional scout, is bound to find the trail. hunters have heard the elephants. They are nearby and can surge at any moment. This time the elephants are here. Isan goes after them. Faced with this wall of thick bamboo, the hunters abandon the chase. Usually very talkative, the hunters are rather quiet tonight. Each of them feels the weight of his new failure, especially Isan, who thanks to Bakam's great speed was so close to succeeding. But the wild elephants were too clever for them. The three brothers and their helpers will have to set out again in search of a new herd. Tomorrow, they will begin a new series of long and arduous days of trekking. At Ayawe, the second rice season is already underway. Macoun has begun the final stage of Compsen's education. Compsen learns to recognize more and more complicated commands, like sitting. He still resists, but the old man knows the elephant is ready to accept living among men, thus honoring the promise of his ancestors, the first elephants. Nevertheless, Macoun is worried. His sons have been gone for several weeks. Will they capture a new elephant before Compson's taming is completed? Will the cycle continue? Very large for his age, Compson is strong and fast. Macoun thinks he will make an excellent hunting elephant for his youngest grandson, Idoit. To complete the training, Macoun takes the elephant to the other side of the lake to get him accustomed to people and houses. The Mnongs are the most renowned of elephant tamers. In the past, they would sell the animals in Cambodia, Burma, and Thailand. Macoun was such a celebrity that the king of Thailand invited him to his kingdom to train a white elephant. But since the Mnongs have become sedentary and wild elephants more and more rare, the animals are no longer sold. Today they are only captured to replace elephants who are too old to hunt. The Mnongs are determined to continue living with the elephants, since for them, an elephant has a soul and is a true member of the family. In the forest, the hunters are exhausted and discouraged. The spirits are not with them. Capture seems impossible, and the rains are beginning again. But the men and their elephants go on. It's the hunters' last chance. Tomorrow they must return to the village, and the cycle will be broken. Isan has managed to isolate a young elephant from his herd. Mahjong and Mave rush over to cut off the trail. The elephant must not be allowed to get back under the cover of the bamboo. Mahjong does not succeed in catching the little one. His own elephant is exhausted after days of hunting and cannot get close enough. Isan takes over. His elephant is stronger and faster. They let their lassos drag along the ground and pick up vegetation, thus slowing the elephant down. The hunters follow him until the animal is completely exhausted and gives up trying to run away or even to defend himself. The hunters become talkative again. Isan is proud and delighted at this difficult and successful capture. His people will be overjoyed as well, since the sacred cycle of capture and taming remains unbroken. The elephant, solidly tied to a tree, has been there alone for 2 days. To calm him down and get him accustomed to the odor of the hunting elephants, Mave implores him to agree to live among men. Once back in the village, the Mnongs give thanks to the spirits who have helped them in two ways. One elephant has been captured and another successfully tamed. All the great leaders come together for this increasingly rare event. Macoun's success with Komsin is also celebrated. The elephant will now take his place among men. A buffalo is sacrificed to the spirits, and his hide, sanctified by Macoun's prayers, will be used to make the next lasso. Thus, the sacred link between man and elephant is perpetuated. Young Mnongs still capture wild elephants, but they cannot devote their entire lives to hunting them. Macoun will remain the last Ivory Knight. In spite of his efforts to pass down his knowledge and preserve his culture, Macoun cannot prevent the disappearance of wild elephants. These remaining giants are the last symbols of a lost freedom, the survivors of bygone days when the elephant and man were one people, fishing in the lakes.